In this episode of the Butt Chronicles, we take a look at Beavis and Butthead, Episode 8, Burger World.
Welcome to Industrial Industries World Radio's The Butt Chronicles.
You said welcome.
Oh God.
Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Butt Chronicles, your audio guide to everything Beavis and Butthead. And I'm your host, DJ Glowing Ice. And today we're taking a look at Beavis and Butthead Episode 8, Burger World. It first aired on MTV on May 18th, 1993. That's about all you need to know. Alright, so let's check it out. See what happens in Beavis and Butthead Episode 8, Burger World. We start at Beavis and Butthead's house as their TV plays an episode of Star Trek. Beavis has his hand up, attempting to make the Vulcan salute. Butthead says, "Hey Beavis, these guys better look out for the Klingons near Uranus." We then see an outside shot of the building that is the fast food restaurant, Burger World. Beavis and Butthead work at Burger World, and they're hanging out in the dumpster area behind the building. We see them dressed up in their employee uniforms, which are blue pants, red polo shirts, and red visors. While digging through the trash, Butthead pulls out a chicken sandwich and starts eating it. Beavis finds a dead mouse on the ground near the dumpster, and Butthead dares Beavis to eat it. A thought bubble containing a bug zapper appears above Beavis's head. "Let's go inside. I got an idea," says Beavis. The boys then walk into the employee entrance door of Burger World as Mr. Anderson drives past them, heading to the drive-thru. Country music plays from Mr. Anderson's station wagon as he pulls up to the drive-thru menu. Now this menu seems to be a little disorganized in a planned way. This menu item rearrangement seems to be done by Beavis and Butthead. The drive-thru menu reads as follows. For sides, we have fries and chocolate scab cookies. Entrees, there are hot dogs and rock in a roll. For salads, we have snot chocolate and rag. The sandwich choices are ass, butt nuggets, or hurl burger. And for drinks, there's cola, spit, and Dr. Poop. Mr. Anderson looks at the menu, and Butthead's voice comes through the speaker. Hello? You know, back in Baton, we would have fed 600 men in the time it takes you ham and eggers to take my order. We would have you digging latrines, Mr. Anderson answers as he laughs and spits out of his car window. Butthead comes back on saying, hello? Mr. Anderson talks slow, in an attempt to make sure Butthead understands. He orders large fries, pie, and a large coffee. He follows it up with a, "Pronto, got me good, buddy?" Butthead answers back only with, Mr. Anderson, now angry, repeats his order 2 more times. Cut to Butthead inside Burger World with the headset on as he says, "Pull up to the window." The roles of Beavis and Butthead working at Burger World are, Butthead works the cash register, and Beavis always works the fryer and the grill. So now we see Beavis in the back, and he drops the dead mouse he found earlier into a fry basket and sinks the basket into the hot oil of the fryer. "Cook, cook, cook," Beavis says repeatedly. Butthead, up front, turns towards Beavis and says through the cook window, "Hey Beavis, I need like fries and a pie or something." Beavis then reaches into a freezer compartment below, and he grabs a handful of frozen French fries and throws them into the same fry basket the dead mouse is in. He then walks over to a hanging glue trap, and he scrapes dead flies, beetles, and other bugs off of it into his hand and tosses them into the fry basket too. Beavis then says, "Cook, cook, cook," once more. Butthead from the front says, "What?" "Check it out. Mouse burger and French flies," Beavis says. The boys laugh and Butthead walks to the fryer next to Beavis and says, "Extra crispy." Outside, Mr. Anderson is sitting in his car, honking his horn angrily and says, "Get bad service, you gotta complain. Squeaky wheel gets a greasing." He drives off so he could park and walk into Burger World to complain. Back inside, Beavis has his finger in the fryer oil, tolerating the pain to see how long he could keep it in. Butthead puts his finger in for a second, but pulls it immediately out. Next we see Butthead standing by an open cash register, pulling dollar bills out of the tray and putting them into his pocket one by one. He then starts speaking into the microphone on the counter. "See more butts? Anyone here see more butts?" Beavis, with a bandage on his finger standing next to Butthead, says, "That was cool." Mr. Anderson enters Burger World and the entrance door slams fast on him, which knocks him to the floor and cracks his eyeglasses. He makes his way to the counter and says, "I order my large fries, pie, and large coffee like I do every Thursday afternoon before I go to the foot doctor, and I'm waiting out there 20 minutes. As Mr. Anderson has his glasses off, we see Beavis and Butthead from his perspective, which the boys appear blurry. Mr. Anderson says that the boys look familiar and asks if they were the ones who spray painted his dog last week. He puts his cracked glasses back on, in which he sees the boys in a kaleidoscope, cracked kind of way. "That was, other kids," Butthead says. Again this time, in a more rude tone, Mr. Anderson repeats his order twice. Beavis makes his way to the back, and then he rings the bell. While Beavis puts the fries, bugs, and dead mouse into a bag and seasons it with salt, Butthead tells Mr. Anderson that it's free. Mr. Anderson, referring to Beavis as that boy in the back, asks Butthead if that boy's right in the head. Butthead says, "Nope." Mr. Anderson goes on, saying that he's glad Burger World hires rejects like him, so he stays off the streets and away from his place. He then proceeds to laugh and says, "You know what I mean?" Butthead shakes his head no, as Beavis walks up and hands Mr. Anderson the bag. "Here you go, dude," Butthead says. Mr. Anderson, unaware of what's exactly in the bag from his broken glasses, gladly takes the food and tells the boys he'll see them next week. He walks to the door and then turns to the boys. He mentions that the boys may want to trim the shrubs and run an edger by the curb, and if they don't have any equipment, he may come by and do it himself. Butthead says, and then Mr. Anderson leaves. "He's gonna eat a fried mouse," laughs Butthead. "And bugs," says Beavis. Beavis then has another thought bubble with a bug zapper in it, and he says that he knows where there's a dead raccoon. The next shot, we see the boys back home, sitting on their couch with their Burger World uniforms still on. "Did you know when you eat rump roast, you're eating a cow's butt?" "That's cool," says Butthead. Their TV flips onto a channel, playing a commercial where the announcer is saying, "Attention homeowners." "Pay attention, Beavis," Butthead says as he laughs. Beavis laughs and calls Butthead a chode smoker. And that's the end of episode 8 of Beavis and Butthead, Burger World. Now let's check out the music videos. There's 4 music videos in this episode. First, we have Jeremy Jordan with The Right Kind of Love. Beavis wants Butthead to change it. Butthead doesn't and laughs, saying, "Check out this wuss." Beavis says, "Vanilla Ice sucks." Butthead says, "Is this one of those Levi's 501 commercials?" And then they change it. Then it's ZZ Top with Legs. Beavis, talking about the girl with the glasses in the video, says, "She wants it." Butthead says, "Yeah, and I'm gonna give it to her." "Billy Gibbons has a long beard," Beavis says. "You think he has a long Johnson?" says Butthead. "Does he have a Don Johnson?" asks Beavis. The boys think they see Al Bundy and think he's that dude who killed all those people. Butthead says, "Better change it, dude. This video's telling a story." And then they change it. Next is Biohazard with Punishment. The boys like it. "Nipple rings are cool," says Butthead, following up with a "tattoos are cool." "I'm gonna get one," says Beavis. Butthead says, You could get "I'm a wuss" tattooed across your butt. Beavis says, "Shut up, asswipe." Last music video is Delight with "Groove is in the Heart." Bootsy kicks ass, says Butthead. The boys talk about how the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind was stupid, and Beavis calls it Chode Encounters of the Turd Kind. Butthead says, "This is giving me a headache." Those are the music videos. Now let's get into the fun facts. This episode marks the first appearance of Burger World, and there are two very, very slight differences in cuts in this episode. In the edited version of this episode, it cuts out the very end when Beavis calls Butthead a chode smoker. And also the version that aired on TV had an extra exterior shot of Burger World right after Beavis and Butthead go back inside after digging through the dumpster and Mr. Anderson driving to the drive-thru. This little extra shot was made for the viewer to establish the location of where things were happening after the music video segments. And since there were no music video segments in the home video versions, there was no need for that shot. Burger World is the third episode of Season 2 and is the 8th episode overall of Beavis and Butthead. IMDb, the Internet Movie Database, gives Beavis and Butthead Episode 8 Burger World a 7.5 out of 10. Now, I'll give you my review. Well, my relationship with this episode, I've seen it quite a bit as a kid. I remember seeing this one. The French flies kind of joke that Beavis said, I remember that. And seeing the menu with all the just different letterings on there and all that. There's one thing that I'm noticing as I'm watching all of these episodes up until now. During the music video segments, Beavis tends to say a lot that he wants a tattoo. And Butthead every single time always follows it up with, "You should get 'I'm a puss' or 'I'm a wuss' tattooed on your butt." Now, I don't know if Mike is doing that as just a running joke or what, but it's just something that I'm noticing. It's a trend. But nevertheless, how this episode looked, the animation looks a bit crappier than the episode before. So I don't know what was going on behind the scenes around this time to where one episode looked a lot better than the other, but for the most part, the whole story, the premise of this episode was really cool. I liked this episode a lot more than most so far. You know, there's just a lot of good old classic old man things that are being said by Mr. Anderson and talking about doing yard. Hey, you need to trim these shrubs, do that. It's like, oh man, that's just so on the money with so many of these old guys. It's just, you know, it's like I could probably count about 10 Tom Andersons that live in my neighborhood. I remember as a kid watching this episode, and my dad watched it with me. It was like me and my dad, we would watch Beavis and Butthead. Like, just a lot of these lines in this episode, I remember my dad laughing at. And as a kid, I watched that, and I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I get it, it's a joke. But I don't know, maybe I'm getting more immature as I get older, because when I watch it now, I laugh a lot more than I did as a kid. I don't know what's going on with me. But anyways, I love this episode. I'm going to give Burger World, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Solid 7. I love this episode. It's a good one. So there you go. There's my review. Beavis and Butthead, Episode 8, Burger World, 7 out of 10.